The GameCube was active during the same generation as the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox, a time when it was sort of uncool to like Nintendo. The addition of a DVD player in the PS2 drove sales through the roof, and a good size of the Nintendo 64 install base had moved on to the original Xbox. And the bros and the cool dudes were all like, "No man, Nintendo is for babies. Go play your baby games." And I was like, okay fine, I'll just go play the best games of this generation on a vastly superior controller, bro. I went to a private school. This is a list of my 10 favorite GameCube games. Two racers in a single kart isn't a gimmick. It's a thoughtful design choice that translates to my all-time favorite Mario Kart game. Strategically switching racers to collect and use items along with plenty of now classic levels including Waluigi's Stadium and Baby Park makes me hope that someday Nintendo will revisit the two-racer formula. I remember years ago, an interview with the director of Doubles Dash, and he suggests the possibility of a Mario Kart with 3 racers. I'm down. The GameCube launch, and by extension launch window, was fantastic. So many great games for Nintendo's new hardware with a surprising amount of solid third-party offerings. One of those is a conceptually bizarre and historically accurate Super Monkey Ball, a game where you navigate a monkey and a ball to the end goal by tilting the actual stage. It's crazy and it works wonderfully. Its intense difficulty is nicely supplemented by 6 thoroughly enjoyable and in-depth minigames. I've spent dozens of hours playing Monkey Target. Super Monkey Ball is as good now as it was in 2001. A game like Super Mario 64 is a hard act to follow. 6 years after its polygonal debut, the most famous of plumbers returned in Super Mario Sunshine. Instead of Peach's castle, Delfino Plaza served as a hub world to Isle Delfino's many tropical and water-centric levels. The introduction of FLUDD allows for more precise platforming and a lot of other interesting and fun ideas. If only the game didn't have as much of a reliance on blue coins, then it would be very near the top of this list. Sunshine was also the debut of Bowser Jr. and the fabrication of probably the most disturbing romance in Nintendo lore.
Leave my mama alone, you bad man. I won't let you take Mama Peach away. Mama? I'm your mama?
Lastly, I feel like it's been forever since we've seen Toadsworth, and I lament that. I love that guy.
I am most concerned with the well-being of the princess in this dreadful heat. Master Mario, if you would... Blah, 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 blah.
Unlike Mario and Zelda, the Metroid franchise didn't see a release on the Nintendo 64 and instead had to wait for the GameCube to make its long-anticipated 3D debut. Developed by Retro Studios, Metroid Prime fully captures the gameplay, atmosphere, and soul of the 2D games, and received universal acclaim and stands as one of the greatest debut offerings from a development studio. From the rain-drenched Talon overworld to the corruption of the Phazon mines, the Omega Pirate or Meta Ridley, Metroid Prime is a testament to how a classic franchise should be reinvented for the modern era. Most Nintendo fans are aware that themes in Shigeru Miyamoto games draw a lot of inspiration from his real-life experiences. The most famous example is The Legend of Zelda was inspired by his childhood adventures, but he also created Nintendog shortly after his family got a puppy, and in 2001 Pikmin was released, a game that was directly influenced by his new hobby of gardening. The first game was very well received, but it was the second game in 2004 that takes the cake for me. It has an expanded story mode, an additional challenge mode, plus an absolutely fantastic 2-player battle mode that came out of nowhere. Me and my friend played so much of that when we were kids. Hostile Territory is freaking incredible. It really makes you wonder what kind of witchcraft insanity does Miyamoto grow back there? "14-year-old me walked into an EB Games one day and played a demo of Beautiful Joe. I'd seen articles of said game in the shortly lived but rather cool GMR magazine. I was so impressed with the game, the most impressed I've ever been with a title based solely on a demo. I bought the full game when it came out and played through it multiple times. It's somewhat of a parody of old school action movies, and you use slow down, fast forward, and zoom in to solve puzzles and effectively fight enemies. It's great stuff. Beautiful Joe is amazing, and it's my favorite Dead franchise. The concept of roaming your Animal Crossing town while it being the same time in the real world was a very novel one back in 2002. Catching bugs and fish dependent on the time of day or season, and switching clothes to trick Jingle the Christmas reindeer into giving you additional presents were all made possible because of GameCube's internal clock. The cast of animals, villagers, or important NPCs alike are extremely varied, and their roles add a lot to your individual town. Animal Crossing is a pretty incredible game. Also, I just want to say that there has never been a video game character that has scared me more than Mr. Resetti. His bluffs where he said he'll delete my save data were not something that I handled well as a 13-year-old. He's a massive bully and putz, and I just love him so much. Of every game on this list, Resident Evil 4 has likely had the biggest impact on the industry. For the fourth installment in the series, Capcom completely reinvented the franchise with an absolute masterclass in survival horror. Utilizing an over-the-shoulder third-person camera, Leon Kennedy traverses creepy locales while meeting new friends in search of the president's daughter. Exceptional gameplay with a very satisfying upgrade system mixed with a great atmosphere makes Resident Evil 4 one of the best games ever made. Super Smash Bros. Melee may be the single game that I've played most in my life. What was a fun game with a great hook on the Nintendo 64 became a super polished, fully realized celebration of all things Nintendo on the GameCube, with numerous modes and that legendary gameplay that's been a staple in the fighting game community for 17 years. There's not a lot I can say about this game that hasn't already been said. Smash Bros. Melee will outlive us all. I remember the day when I first saw the Wind Waker's art style. It was in issue 148 of Electronic Gaming Monthly. The disappointment in me was so immense. I couldn't get over it. Like many in the gaming community, I initially didn't understand the brilliance and timelessness of Wind Waker's exaggerated cell shading. By E3 2002, I was completely sold on the game. It's the most expressive version of Link we've ever seen, and the visuals perfectly lend themselves to the creation of a world that has more personality than most games can ever dream of. The island-based exploration and wonderment is as much of a high as the game's overall polish, music, characters, and top-notch gameplay. Wind Waker has aged like a fine wine. This was just a list of my 10 favorite GameCube games. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe and I'll continue to make more of these, and with any luck, hopefully they'll improve in quality to the point where they're actually watchable. Thanks so much and take care.